welcome back to the Tea and a Buddy podcast. I'm Dominic.
And I'm Erica.
And today's episode, we're going to be talking about the cussing culture in the UK.
The cussing culture.
This is something that Erica was watching on TikTok. Someone was talking about a story about a guy, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, okay. So, before we get into that, I just want to apologize for us being gone last week.
Yeah, last week was a sickie. A sickie week.
We got our flu shots in November, I think.
Yeah.
But we got the flu. I do not recommend it. But then again, it's like if you get the flu shot and you still get the flu, what can you do, you know?
Yeah, it wasn't as bad as, full-blown flu.
No.
I was largely okay.
Yeah. Dominic didn't hardly get sick at all, but I just had fever, and then I'm sure you can probably hear the difference in my voice. I've got the sexy phlegm from Friends. Yeah, Phoebe's sexy phlegm. But anyway, to get on to the subject at hand. So last night, I think, this happens every once in a while.
To us.
Yeah,
a topic will just appear and we're like, okay, we'll
have a discussion about it, and then we go, oh, you know what, that'll make a fun topic for the podcast tomorrow, you know?
Yeah.
I was looking on TikTok, and you guys... Am I always talking about TikTok? Seems like every podcast.
TikTok. She's obsessed with TikTok.
I'm like, so
always
I saw on TikTok
the
that on TikTok this video. Oh, TikTok.
TikTok this, TikTok that.
Sorry about that. Anyway, on TikTok. The other thing is when I cough, I get choked up and I start coughing. So again, I apologize if that happens. But so this video that I saw last night was this woman who was talking about, this American woman who apparently is living in the UK either permanently or temporarily. She didn't say.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was not somebody that I follow. It just came up in the For You page. And she was doing a little story time about a date that she recently had. She'd been out with a man once before.
She didn't really know him that well. She'd only been on one date or something, right?
They didn't know each other. Beyond that. She was getting ready for the second date, just before she recorded this video.
Yeah.
And he sent her a message that said something like, all right, you shallow bitch. This was a text message.
Yeah, a text message.
All right, you shallow bitch. I know my car is not much to look like, but I've had it for 12 years, and it's a something or other, and it gets me around everywhere I need to go.
Gets me from A to B.
Yeah, and nobody in London has a car anyway. And she was just really taken aback by the fact that
he called her a shallow bitch.
that he had cussed at her in the first place, but also was calling her a word, you know. And so she messaged him back,
why did you call me that?
No, I don't think she asked him why. She was just I'm not really feeling comfortable. I don't appreciate it. It's kind of upset me more than I thought it had, and I just don't really feel like going out anymore. I don't want to go on this date, so please don't bother coming to get me. To which he was annoyed because he was coming all the way from across London or something, and so I guess he sent her another message, and he was really annoyed. And
I thought she texted him, oh, why would you say that, or something.
No, I don't think so.
And he was just like, what do you mean?
No, she said she was just a little bit
asked her friends, oh, this guy just called me a bitch.
No, she said she was a little bit oh, what, and then she was talking to her brother on FaceTime while she was getting ready. And her brother was told him, and her brother was like, well, you're not going out with him.
Don't do it, mate.
Don't go out with him.
Don't do it.
But as soon as she said the story, as soon as she says what he said, but then she got to the part, and nobody in London has a car anyway. Because she didn't preface this story at all with the fact, oh, I'm living abroad, I'm living here in the UK or anything. She just told this story, and then she said, oh, and nobody in London has a car anyway. And I instantly, as soon as I heard her say, as soon as she indicated that he was British, that she is in London and this guy that she's going out with is British. I was like, oh, he was joking. It was a joke. It was what do they call it? Friendly banter, like, but again, it's like they don't, she wasn't comfortable enough with it. Yeah. And I was like, oh, he was just, and that's what I thought, oh, he was just joking. And then I played it for Dominic, and Dominic looks at me and goes, it was a joke, he was joking. I'm like, yeah, I know he was joking. You know he was joking, because we just know, we know how they are over there. Yeah, we know that type of British person. Yeah. If you've ever watched Bullet Train, and you've seen Tangerine and Lemon, that's the kind of person. A swear word every other being word. American, I totally get it. Like, I just get it, and I'm not. If you're not used to that, if you're quite Puritan and just. If you're a Puritan. I mean, because that's the article I was watching. The BBC Culture. It's like, the banter swearing. All right, you silly bitch. Yeah. Get your knickers on and make me a cup of tea. And that's what I said to Dominic. I said, go put your knickers on and make me a cup of tea. Because women do it to each other in Britain. It's not just like men doing it to women or women doing it to men. That's a line, by the way, from the Fast Show. Yeah. Oh. Is it? Yes. Oh, I thought it was what's his name said in that detective show that you used to show me. The Sweeney. Put your knickers on and make me a cup of tea. No, that's what that sketch was based on. Was his portrayal. I thought it was from that. No, everybody assumes it was John Thor who said it in Sweeney, but no, it's Detective Monkfish from the Fast Show. Oh God! And there's a sketch, and he comes in and he plays the same guy. It's like it was like a John Actor is Monkfish. Yeah. And it's like, oh, he's playing the same in any role he plays. Like, he's a tough, uncompromising medical. It's like one of those things where the actor plays different roles but the same way. Oh yeah. All right, I'm in charge here. What's happening? And they tell him, and then he's like, you, get out of here and make me a cup of tea. Yeah. You, stop crying, put your knickers on and make me a cup of tea. Oh, he's very kind of like no-nonsense, misogynistic guy, But so this girl was saying in the video that she didn't grow up with cussing, and she doesn't cuss, like nobody. I think she doesn't cuss. She would never cuss at her friends. Nobody that she hangs around cusses. Like, she just doesn't put up with it. She doesn't like it, whatever. And that's a personal preference as well. Like, that doesn't even necessarily have anything to do with being American. It's just like, that's just her personal preference, and she's completely entitled to that. And I'm thinking, she says, and I called him and he got very upset. And he got very angry, and I was just like... And he said, oh, you knew you didn't want to go out with me. And you just... You waited until I got here, and You waited until I got all the way across town to do this, and whatever. So, he sounds like he's a nasty person anyway. Yeah, I mean, he wasn't getting the fact that, oh, wait a minute. She's upset because I called her a bitch. Yeah. And it's like, I wasn't meaning it in that way, To me... It was kind of like, it was in a jokingly romantic kind of way. Yeah, I told Dominic, like, if he wasn't like a nasty person anyway, he would have been mortified. Was just doing it like, oh, you shallow bitch, all right, mate. Elbow to the ribs, yeah, wink, like, wink, nudge, nudge, yeah, mate, yeah, right, mate, kind of thing. He would have been completely mortified to know that that upset her. Yes, I mean, if she would have been like, "Oh my God, it was just banter, and that's just the way we talk, and I didn't mean it like that." And that's just the way I talk, and I say it to everyone, and I'm sorry, I didn't realize it would upset you so much. Yeah, I'm thinking the shallow part was probably what upset her more, because he may have. Know her, I mean, we don't know. I mean, they'd been on a date previously, so maybe. A lot of women do not take kindly to being called bitch, well, No, I understand that, but, I'm sure she was upset at the whole phrase, too. It's like, oh, I'm not shallow, Yeah, maybe. Either, and I would never think that about your car. The implication, yeah. How dare you, sir. It was a bit of a weird joke, but... I challenge you to a duel now. It was a bit of a weird kind of joke to make. It was a bit of, like, show that he's probably like an insecure person if he felt like he had to make that joke in the first place, you know?
Well, yeah, no, and it's like, yeah, and I mean, that's the whole thing. It's like, oh, Brits are never going to show their all real, true feelings, except in like, all right, you know, with like offensive banter, you know, insult banter.
Yeah. To be okay,
affectionate insulting,
and so to move on to the larger discussion, which is just the fact that we both knew what kind of person he was. Yeah. Like, we both knew it was a joke. We both knew, like, oh, he wasn't like actually calling her this, you know, because of the cussing culture in Britain. Like, if you are an American who is not used to hearing a lot of like bad language, flowery, as they say.
Flowery language, yes.
And then you meet a British person or you spend any time in Britain, you might be surprised at how much they cuss over there. And it's just like, it's just everyday, like, conversation.
Yeah.
You do it in the workplace. You do it, like, with your friends.
And I mean, the four-letter C word is bandied about quite brazenly over there. In like, so, and I'm not saying every Brit does it, because I always say, like, this American girl, say, for instance, you know, they're all like, oh, British guys, you know, I'm really into British guys. But there's generally two types.
Of British guy. Yeah.
And one is, like, the Prince Harry, Benedict Cumberbatch type, Hugh Grantish type, who they've seen in the romantic comedies, who swoops in and is all nervous and all polite and has a lot of money, and whatever. And then there's the type that's kind of like Gordon Ramsay, who's swearing every other word, comes from a modest family, and swears a lot.
Basically, the upper class and the working class.
Pretty much, yes. And it's like...
And those are stereotypes, obviously. Like, there are people who would be in between both of those.
Yeah, naturally.
Both of those stereotypes.
It's like there's basically two types of this, and it's like they're looking for that one.
Yeah.
They're looking
for
the
more
one...
polite.
They're looking for the romantic comedy type as to the gritty... British movie, British movie. The Full Monty compared to Love Actually.
Yeah. Not even Full Monty. Like, I don't know. Pick any Michael Caine movie.
Michael Caine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Millie's brother Billy.
So, yeah, like, just cussing is it's just... It's a lot more common.
I mean, I grew up in pub culture, so I heard it all the time.
But you also said your gran used to...
But my grandmother is like, lack of vocabulary, that.
Yeah.
Anytime a swear word came from my mouth.
Yeah.
And it would be lack of vocabulary, that. You should learn to talk properly and,
Yeah.
And it's just like, my dad didn't have a lack of vocabulary, but he did swear on the odd occasion,
Yeah.
And it's like, and it's like, because he went to pubs, and that's what happens in pubs,
Yeah.
With the working class. But yeah, it's just kind of like one of those things where, as I say, Americans don't realise that there's more than one type of British person,
Yeah.
And it's not the one who knows the Queen and is nobility, and or he's kind of like polite, You're
not going to hear like
or she's polite,
the London gangster type of character in a Jane Austen movie, are you?
No.
It's like,
that would be an interesting kind of thing, though. I mean, they should meld those two worlds together,
those
shouldn't
two
they?
Genres.
Like a period gangster piece, set in the East End,
Yeah.
From like in the Regency period,
I don't know. I think the C word in particular was probably the most shocking, because I do happen to have some family and some friends who cuss quite regularly, let's say. So like hearing the F word or whatever was not like such a big deal, but you don't often, just like in general conversation in America, hear the C word. You know, like, that is reserved for when you're really angry, when you're really disgusted.
Yeah, no, and I mean, of course, Brits use it when they're really angry and really disgusted too, and, you know, it's all about kind of like, you know, context, I guess, you know.
Yeah, but they use it just, like, as banter also. Yeah.
What are you doing here, you? You know, there he comes, look at him, the old, you know.
Yes.
So we can't say it for, what is it, the FCA?
Oh, wow. FCA.
What is it? FAAA or something? What's the broadcasting standards over here? I can't remember. Ofcom it is in Britain.
But yeah, so hearing that one just used, like, in banter is a little bit, like, I don't know, it does feel weird at first. I mean, I'm kind of used to it at this point. Not that Dominic says it all the time, but...
No, I don't say it at all. I mean, I'm one of those people who is just kind of like, you know, I'm in the middle of it all, you know? Yeah. It's like I grew up in pubs, I heard all the blue language, the colourful language, and, you know, but I consider myself kind of a polite person, you know? I'm not going to use it like when I came over here, you know? It's like, I'm not swearing and...
Yeah.
Thing, you know, and people find me generally quiet. So it's kind of like I'm generally quiet maybe because I'm not swearing all the time.
You mentioned before the banter, what did you call it?
The insulting
banter.
The affectionate insults.
Yeah. That is one part
endearing insults. Yeah, it's kind of like,
yeah,
come on, you old, you know, so and so, yeah, you old bastard or whatever, you know. It's that kind of thing, you know. It's just kind of like, and that article was kind of like saying, oh, it's because Brits don't express how they feel, so they've got to kind of like say it, you know. They've got to be kind of like insulting and come away with a warm feeling. Whereas if you said that to an American, you wouldn't get invited to their wedding or the Christmas card list or something, you know. If you called them a moron. Oh, come on, you moron. Oh, come on, you. You know, and there's some, you know, there's some that's kind of like, you know.
You slag, you know, like.
Come on, you old slag.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, you know. You know, it's like. You see it. You've watched enough. You've probably, you know, our listeners have probably watched enough British shows to realise that happens. It's not just men who say it, you know.
No.
Because, you know, you watch, like, these women's things, like, oh, they're coming out, she goes, what's happening, slag?
Yeah.
You know, or something, and she'll be like, I don't know, what's up with you? Oh, nothing, you know. You know, it's just like, it just rolls off, you know.
Or they call each other cows a lot.
You cow!
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You old cow, what you doing here?
I mean, and some of those are like, you know, are they as bad a word as, you know, are they considered a cuss word? I don't know, you know, but it's all said with the same feeling, basically.
It's the same feeling,
you know?
of just like, you know, it's just a word.
Yeah.
You know?
It's like there's not any...
Because
that is kind of funny, isn't it, in Britain? Like, there's not any worse words than others. Like in America, not. I feel like
it's just the feeling that's put behind it, you know?
Mm.
Where it's just like, what's up, you old slag?
Yeah,
you know?
if you say...
All right, you slag, what you doing?
Yeah.
You know?
If you say it in a jokey way, then you can basically get away with calling anybody anything in Britain. It's very...
But it's like, oh, you know, they're really angry. You slag!
Yeah.
Why did you do that? You
know? Yeah.
Then it's a different thing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But it's just like, all right, you slag, what you doing? You know? All right, you old slag, what you up to? That kind of thing, you know.
Yes.
Well, I don't know why I'm saying it in that kind of accent, but you know, but it's like, all right, you old slag.
People with that sort of like South
like,
London accent, they're the only ones who use that word.
It kind of is true. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it kind of is true, I guess, because up in
they have other words.
Up in the north, I don't think you really hear it much of that.
You don't have. I mean,
correct me if I'm wrong. You know.
Again, if we're stereotyping.
Because I think up in the north they're far more polite. Really, you know, in some areas, especially, it's like, you wouldn't. You know, it's like, that kind of mentality of like, lack of vocabulary.
I mean, if you're
don't be so uncouth, don't be so common,
If we're putting it in terms of like films that we've seen, like
it's mostly London gangsters, right? Slag.
Yeah.
What you up to?
Or like businessmen, they meet each other for a night out or something, and they're all just like calling each other. But it's like you can't really think of any. You can't really think of a couple of Northerners like meeting each other.
Maybe
after a while.
Now that I'm thinking about it, maybe.
What are they calling each other?
Slag, probably.
They're not calling each other slag in a Yorkshire accent. Like I don't know. Yeah, we're really stereotyping quite hard.
Stereotyping quite hard. Look at us.
In this podcast. But
terrible stereotyping.
Yeah, Northerners are so much more polite and don't cuss as much as Southerners.
They'll enjoy that stereotype.
But yeah,
I'm putting it out there.
The insulting banter. I don't know. Okay, when I'm thinking north now, just to completely go in a different direction. I'm thinking of in like a Yorkshire accent, and I can't hear it. I can't hear them like calling each other names.
I was thinking of like Midlands, like in Birmingham,
or like Liverpool. You can hear like Liverpudlians. Yeah. Oh, you old whatever. So and so.
What are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah. You can hear it.
Yeah.
So I think that it does exist. I mean, obviously, I'm sure it does. But
all right, you old fart. What are you up to?
Oh my god. Anyway, the insulting banter thing though is one that I just can't ever get used to.
No, I mean, and it's kind of like, all right, we don't know each other that well for you to say that,
Yeah.
And that's what that girl and Dave was like, yeah, we do, that was what her thing is like, we don't know each other at all.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like the Meghan Markle thing, it's like, you don't know me well enough to comment on my hormones and say I'm baby brain.
Oh yeah, to say I'm having baby brain.
And I can just think now, it's like, oh yeah, there must have been more to that story, because I mean, I can imagine Meghan going, all right, you old slag, how's the baby brain? Harry goes, say that to Kate when you see her. He's like, that was rude, Meghan. That was very rude. We don't say that here.
Oh my god.
And then Kate goes out, she goes, yeah, right, slags, how's it going?
No, but like just being rude to each other, like I don't know, for a laugh, like I just can't. I can't.
Yeah, it's just kind of
You and I have had that discussion before, like...
it's not a joke.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not funny.
Yeah. It's like, why? Why
do you know what I say to that? I say, riendo, riendo, riendo.
I mean, saying slag, okay, whatever, but there are other things that British people say. Nothing's coming to mind at the moment, but there are other things that I have heard.
Sarcasm, or, like...
Sarcasm. It's me being sarcastic.
Yeah.
It's just like, no, it's just you being rude, basically. And again...
That was very rude, Meghan.
Yes.
We don't say that here.
No, I mean, I think that would be the other way, someone would be calling her a slag, and she would be like, what does that mean?
No, I think she would be down with it. I think she's all down with that, with her girls, her friends, I think she would have been more into it if the British press, as Harry said,
No. I cannot imagine Meghan Markle being okay with being called a slag. No, I don't think so.
Affectionately. Because, like, what
do you mean?
Like, when you go back to kind of like, like American stereotypes, because American media and stuff had a lot of, like, influence on British culture,
Yeah.
And so there's people who think America's full of Ned Flanders type people.
Oakley dokley.
Oakley dokley. Yeah. Gosh darn it. What
Yeah.
the dickens, what the flood?
Yeah.
And it kind of is, because, I mean, you say, dang it.
Oh, you know what?
And you say...
not to bring up TikTok again, God forbid.
TikTok?
But
What's TikTok?
There's this other person that I see on TikTok periodically. She pops up on my For You page. Okay. She apparently is dating a British man who lives in America. Fine. You're British. You live in America. But I heard this guy, she doesn't want to reveal him because it's like a new relationship, whatever. So we just hear him talking off camera sometimes in her little TikTok updates. The guy does not have hardly any British accent. I mean, I make fun of Dominic sometimes because his accent is so mild.
You're talking about my accent forward.
This guy's accent is like 10 times less British than Dominic's accent even.
It's, I mean, I heard it once and I thought it sounds like somebody trying to do an accent.
Or you thought, oh, it sounds like, and a bunch of people in the comments were like, this guy doesn't sound British, you know, like.
And she didn't respond to them.
She doesn't say anything. You said he might be British, but he's lived in America most of his life.
Yeah.
Which, fine, he would still technically be British, right? If he was born over there, even if he's lived here since he was a kid. But he definitely said, dang it, in the background of one of her videos the other day. And I was like, he is not British! I have never in my life heard a British person say dang it.
Yeah.
Ever. I was like, that guy is lying to you. He is not British. No British person ever says dang it.
Yeah.
No.
Dang it. Gosh dang it.
Yes. No, right? Like, I've never, ever heard a British person say dang it.
The God dang it thing is because of the other word is like, oh, you know.
Yeah.
You can't say that. Whereas in Britain, they're just like, they laugh it off. They're like, what is that? That isn't even a swear. Damn isn't even a swear word to us, you know?
Yeah.
Damning something. We say it all the time.
But the combination of the word God
puritanical.
With the combination of the word God with the other cuss word, funnily enough, is not really done that often in Britain.
No, that's a very American thing. Yeah. It's like when people are doing an impression of Americans, they are always saying, God dang it.
Yeah.
But actually, you know, the actual word, I can't say it because of American autonomy.
Yeah. No, like...
Find me $20,000.
People who are religious, people who are very religious, people who do not believe in, like, combining the Lord's name with a cuss word, you know, they believe in that being blasphemous, whatever. But yet, Americans are the ones who say it all the time. We always say, you know... As much as British people cuss...
Cheese and rice!
As much as British people cuss, you never ever hear the Lord's name taken in vain, really, with cussing in Britain.
Jesus. We say that, you know, but...
Yeah.
And that's somebody says, don't take... My granny used to say, don't take the Lord's name in vain.
Yeah, my grandma too, yeah.
You know.
Yeah. But that's so
H-E
funny.
double.
Another one.
Hockey sticks.
Another one that Americans do a lot is combining the word mother with with the F-bomb, we'll say it.
Yes.
And British people don't do that either. You never ever...
Yeah, it's kind of slipping in there now.
That's like an Americanism.
Yeah.
That's like, oh, we're gonna cuss like an American today. You know what I mean? Like, you don't generally just hear that in like in British cussing vernacular, however you want to word it.
I mean, yeah, no, it's kind of like, yeah, those mofo and what was the other one? GD.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is the, you know, it's kind of like, that's an American type of thing, you know, because they say it in films all the time.
Yeah.
And I think The Wolf of Wall Street had the F word the most. Oh, but it's kind of like, and so, you know, that's what they say. It's like, oh, so those kind of films, they think, oh, Americans must be cursing all the time, you know?
Yeah.
F-bombs dropping everywhere and everything like that. But it's not, it's because on TV, it's a different kind of thing, you know, because over here...
I think you hear it a lot in big cities. So if you live in a city, then you probably know people who cuss all the time, you know, and if you live in a smaller town, then you don't. And that might be true in Britain also, really.
I suppose so. I mean, I don't know. I can't really say because I grew up in a pub culture.
Well,
so,
your dad, pub culture, and your dad was a literal sailor also. So it's like
cussing like a sailor.
Like a sailor thing, It's like, it's a little bit like, I don't really know.
Gosh darn it, Erica's cussing like a sailor.
It's like, I don't really know what, like, small town British life is like just because you grew up with a literal sailor.
It's very polite. It's very polite in real time, It's all like very much like those little gentle detective shows.
I mean, like if we looked at your best friend in Britain, if we looked at his life, he might go, oh yeah, I don't really know people that cuss that much, in
I don't know,
in my family or in my
No.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. No. I mean, yeah. I mean, I don't know.
Just the way he seems to be,
yeah.
So we could use him as an example for normal British life, since yours is a little bit.
No, it's funny because it's like that kind of like everybody's like swearing all the time, in movies, everyone's dropping F-bombs and stuff like that. Whereas in real life, no, that doesn't happen in America. It's quite puritanical here, and people religious, and we don't say those words, and lack of vocabulary and all that. So because of TV, I think, because TV was very much like that for a long time over here. It was like you couldn't even say a swear word. There wasn't even a watershed.
Well, it's because all of our shows came on network television. Yeah, and they were highly controlled,
highly regulated.
George Carlin did a special, I guess, at some point with like the 5 most deadly words or whatever that you can't say like on TV or or even that'll give you like it'll rate your film, like if you've made a movie and you have these certain words in it like that are said more than just a couple of times, it like changes the rating of your movie. I don't know if that's the case in Britain.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know really. I think so. I think it was. I think there was still like the classification board was still like, oh, there's a lot of there's excessive swearing in this, and there's violence, and but the excessive swearing gives it a parental guidance rating.
And no, we've never, as far as Watershed, we've never had like an official time that after this time
you can start effing and blinding,
having cuss words on.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I can remember. It seems like it wasn't all that many years ago, flipping through the television and hearing the F word on like network TV, and it was like really late at night, and I was like shocked. I was like, did they just say that on what time is it? What channel is this? Because it was just like, oh my god. So obviously there was a point in recent years where they were like, okay, 11 o'clock, midnight, whatever.
It wasn't George Carlin. It was some American writer or something said they were traveling. They were shaving. They were shaving in their hotel and they had the TV on, and I guess 9 o'clock was the watershed. I don't know if there is still one in the UK or not now, but he was shaving or something and he heard them drop the F-bomb and he was like, what? They can say that over here? Oh, that's so crazy,
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, I can't remember who it was now, but I just remember that story of just, it's like, oh yeah, it's so funny that's shocking because, when American movies, from as far back as like the 70s, were laden with expletives.
Yeah. I'm just thinking like in Britain, you even hear, and I suppose, again, this is going to be another generalization, but and so it'll depend on the family, on the way the kid's being brought up or whatever, the circumstances. But I think you sometimes even hear kids cussing more often or at an earlier age, like in front of adults. Because obviously kids cuss everywhere, you know, when they're with their friends. You know, they're going to say things with their friends that they're not going to say. Like, that they're not saying in front of their parents because, you know, it makes them feel older or whatever. But I think that it seems like there's
I think I was the same way. Even though I grew up, my dad would still get on to me for swearing if he heard it, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And it's just like, I'm literally in the pub with you. Most of the time, these people are saying much worse than what I just said. And he's like, yeah, just stop swearing, you know, stop effing swearing, you know.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. But yeah, I think that's about it.
I think that's about it, yeah. I think we've talked.
Let us know if you grew up cussing or the people around you. How like common it has been for you in your life to
Or maybe you went to church every Sunday and was like, you've never said a cuss word in your life.
Yeah.
And every time you get mildly annoyed, you always say cheese and crackers or gosh darn it.
Yeah.
Golly gee whiz.
I think for some people it doesn't even have to do with religion necessarily. It's just the way they were brought up. Like, oh, it's not polite. It's not nice. You don't choose your words. You know what I mean? Like your gran, you know, use your vocabulary. Yeah, you have a small vocabulary if you can only come up with, you know, a few choice words. But that being said, there's been studies that show that actually saying cuss words makes you feel better.
Well, yes, people are like, oh, it's like a valve that releases pressures. Like,
and
you know,
it's like,
you know, that's what it sounds like.
But saying the actual word instead of the substitute, you know, so saying damn instead of dang, you know what I mean? Like, there's been like, you know, they wear the little things on their brains to see, like what happens, you know, if it's the same kind of thing that happens and it doesn't. It's like something else happens when they get to actually say the actual word as opposed to like the substitute word, you know, shoot or
shoot,
you know, whatever. Yeah.
Shoot.
Anyway.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that'll do it. Sorry, this has been like a random one. We just had this idea last night. We were like, that's actually a really interesting topic because Dominic and I have talked about it before, the cussing differences in Britain versus America. So
yes.
Hope you enjoyed. Thank you guys so much as always for tuning in. We really appreciate your support. Be sure to follow us on social media. If you don't already, we are at Butty, TEABUTTY on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And we'll talk to you next time.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.